We often think of our lives as a journey, right? It's a classic metaphor. But what if that journey really only had two possible destinations? One that leads to just sitting still, and another that leads to a vast, purposeful ocean. Okay, let's dive right into what that means.
So this really simple parable of a water drop, man, it just perfectly sums up this huge choice we all have to make. Are we going to settle for the puddle? It feels safe, it's familiar, but it's also stagnant. It's decaying. Or do we take that bigger journey to become part of something immense, something dynamic, the ocean? It's a choice between just fading away or actually making a contribution.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical thing. The cost of choosing that puddle life, it's very real. And honestly, it can be absolutely devastating. Let's look at a true story to really understand what's at stake here. I want you to picture this. A man, 60 years old, and he's still a university student. Now, not because he's some noble lifelong learner, but because he was just lost. He was the literal human version of a life spent trapped in a puddle. And when you dig into a story, it's just heartbreaking. For 40 years, 4 decades, he just drifted from one university to the next, constantly changing his major, never finding his path. What probably started out as this kind of romantic, free-spirited journey just slowly turned into an absolute nightmare. He was drowning in student loan debt, working dead-end jobs just to make payments, and he had no stable family, no fulfilling career, just despair. And that quote just nails it, doesn't it? He spent his entire life exploring every single corner of his tiny little puddle. Different classes, different campuses, but he never ever found the current that was meant to carry him to a larger purpose. He never found the stream.
Okay, so that's the tragedy. But here's the good news. That is not the only path. In fact, you could say it's the unnatural one. Every single one of us, every water drop, is really meant for a much, much grander journey. So let's explore that path of vision, the journey to the ocean.
This is how it's supposed to work. It's a natural progression. We're born, right? We fall to earth and find our place. Then we grow by flowing into a small stream. That's kind of like finding our personal vision. From there, we expand, joining a mighty river where our life's work really starts to unfold. We find completion when we finally arrive at the vast ocean, contributing to something bigger than ourselves, to history itself. And then finally, we transcend, rising back up to the sky. It's a process, it's dynamic, not just some single static goal. All right, so the big question is, how do we make sure we're on that path to the ocean and not just stuck in a puddle somewhere? Well, the key, it turns out, is to understand time, but not just as seconds and minutes on a clock. We need to see it as 4 distinct, overlapping dimensions that can actually guide our journey. First up, there's mechanical time. This is our everyday reality, right? Clocks, calendars, schedules, deadlines. It really defines our present identity, who we are right now. And that student we talked about, he was stuck here, absolutely trapped in mechanical time, only thinking about the next class, the next loan payment, for 40 years without ever looking up to ask the bigger questions. Next, we've got personal time. Think of this as the timeline of your own life story. Your 20s, your 40s, your 60s. Each stage has a totally unique mission. So the question is, what's your mission right now? Are you building a foundation? Are you supposed to be bearing fruit? Or is it time to pass on a legacy? A life that has vision, understands, and really leans into the purpose of each season. Then we zoom out even further, to historical time. This dimension, this is where things get really interesting. It asks us to see our own little journey within the giant sweep of history. What are the unique challenges of the era we were born into? What does our society, our civilization, need from us, right here, right now? And that brings us to the biggest one of all, the most profound dimension, providential time. This is the ultimate why. It's about framing our entire existence inside a grand, divine, purposeful story. It's where we ask, what is the eternal reason that I am even here? So here's the secret sauce, the key to moving from the puddle to the ocean, to living what the source material calls a noble existence. It's not about picking one of these dimensions and getting good at it. No, it's about learning how to live in all 4 of them, all at the same time. And just look at the difference this makes. It's night and day. Without that integrated vision, mechanical time is just survival mode. In personal time, you don't grow, you just get older. You get left behind by historical time, and your life feels kind of meaningless in providential time. But with vision, suddenly your daily actions build a clear identity.
You grow through each life stage. You actually contribute to history, and you fulfill an eternal purpose. What a difference.
And this is so important to get. Having a vision isn't some magic trick to make all your problems disappear. The river's going to get rough. That's life. But when you know your destination, when you know you're heading for the ocean, you don't get discouraged when the stream is narrow or the current is strong. You can navigate it with a sense of peace, maybe even joy, because you know where you're going.
And that brings us right back to the beginning, to the one essential question you've got to ask yourself. After everything we've talked about, it really all comes down to this. Looking at your life, your goals, your dreams, where is your ocean?